T1. Joining us now, Captain Criss Turnipseed. He's the director of the Mississippi Highway Patrol Public Affairs Division. Captain, welcome, sir. Thanks so much for joining us.
Man, it's great to be here. Great morning. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. So I can tell you're in your vehicle out and about on the roads today. Are we staying safe out there?
Man, so far so good. We had a pretty quiet holiday weekend. A little higher numbers than we did last year, but pretty good weekend overall. Can't complain about what happened this weekend for sure. We did have one fatal car crash, which is bad enough, but that was a lot less than we had last year. We had 3 last year, so
wow,
looking better on those. So, but anyway, we're just here for this brief little lull between Christmas and New Year's. We're going to kick it off, try it one more time next weekend, try to keep it quiet next weekend as well.
Got it. Do you think, Captain, that Christmas falling on a Saturday and even New Year's falling on a Saturday, is that a factor in any way in terms of traffic volume and potential for crashes and so forth?
Well, I would think that it may have something to do with it. I don't know. Business is shutting down. You know, sometimes our holiday weekends are a little bit long, depending on where the holiday's placed at. So we usually try to get them pretty concise and short when something's on weekend, because that usually coincides with people being off of work anyway. So you don't have to add any extra holidays in there. So yes, it probably going to be a little quieter due to it being a shorter holiday period, just because of the holidays falling on Saturday this year.
Yeah. What about staffing? Does Highway Patrol have all hands on deck for the heavy travel for Christmas and then New Year's coming up?
Well, Christmas we did have pretty much all hands on deck. When we talk about these overtime details that we get, the federal money, so a lot of guys coming back out to work on the holidays to make a little extra Christmas money. So we had everybody on the ready this weekend, and then next weekend is actually going to be a canceled days off week. So we will have some folks working the overtime details, but it'll be everybody, all hands on deck for New Year's, especially looking like it's going to be another warm one. So probably going to be some nice weather. So, you're probably going to have a little bit more travel and a lot more people going out and doing things, in this warm, unseasonably warm weather that we're having.
Yeah. Well, we certainly do appreciate all the great work keeping us safe on the roads out there by the men and women of the Highway Patrol. What about COVID? Have you guys been impacted by that in any way? Are there officers that are having to quarantine as a result?
There have been. It's like everything else. We've had officers on and off quarantine throughout the pandemic. I would say, the uptick might be up just a little bit more, but nothing that concerns us yet. We're keeping our eyes on it. Everybody's, maintaining, safe practices and trying to stay healthy so we have the manpower to do the work we need to do out here. But that's definitely on the radar. I mean, that's something we're always looking at. It's just some different times that we're living in now.
What message, sir, would you like to deliver to the motoring public in order to stay safe and make sure they get safely to their destination as they travel the highways of Mississippi?
My message usually, it's a reoccurring message year round. If people will just be considerate of others, and that being considerate, you just make wise decisions while you're driving. I think that would go a long ways toward having a safe weekend. A lot of times we get behind the wheel of a vehicle and all we're focused on is what we're going, what we have to do, and not really being considerate of the other people out here sharing the road with us. So just think about everybody else. Everybody you meet out here on this road has a family. Don't do anything that you wouldn't want them to do to you or your family. So if we would just all kind of be considerate of each other, I think that would go a long ways toward having a nice, safe New Year's weekend. And if you're going to drink, don't get behind the wheel. If you're going to get impaired, don't do it. Leave these cell phones alone. Please buckle your seatbelt. That's something we can all do. And just slow down a little bit and just take your time. And like I said, be considerate of everybody else out here on the roadways.
You touched on something with respect to drinking, which, of course, that there typically is a lot of alcohol consumed with the holidays, in particular on New Year's. If someone is alone and they've been drinking, and what's the alternative to getting behind the wheel and driving the vehicle themselves? What should they do? I mean, the first thing, I think the easiest thing is if you've got a designated driver that hasn't been drinking, to let them drive and take care of those duties. But if you're by yourself, or maybe everybody in the vehicle has been drinking, what should they do?
Well, you should stay put. And like you said, we have these cell phones. Pick that phone up and call somebody that you think that's not drinking to come help you out. Like I say, your last option is getting behind it's not even an option. That's not an option to get behind the wheel. So, bring a sleeping bag, a pillow, something. Don't get behind the wheel and drive if you're impaired, because believe me, the alternatives or the consequences to making that decision are probably not going to be some that most want to face. Whether that's a car crash, killing a passenger, or getting killed yourself, or hurting or killing somebody else, and having to face criminal charges for it.
Yeah.
Anything is a better option than getting behind the wheel and driving while you're impaired.
Are we doing better there, Captain, as the years pass by? Do those trends improve in terms of the number of, I guess, DUIs issued in driving while impaired, citations, et cetera?
It's one of those things that, depending on your manpower and depending on how many folks we got out, because they're always there. I mean, it's almost as sure that's going to happen as sure as the leaves are going to bloom back on the trees every year. It's going to happen. It continues to happen. There was a little bit, depending on our enforcement efforts and manpower. I mean, some years we try not to confuse maybe a period with low DUI arrests with, less people are drinking. A lot of it has to do with the manpower. You have to go out there and stop, weather conditions, where you could actually go out there and enforce the laws. But the trend has stayed much close to the same. It's not, I wouldn't say it's increasing or growing or getting more and more. I think the distracted driving in the cell phone is taking the title for being one of the most dangerous activities behind the steering wheel now, because not everybody drinks, but mostly everybody has a device that when they're riding down the road that they want to look at. So you just kind of look at it with statistical wise, and how many people you have actually doing that activity, whether it be drinking or versus how many people are behind the wheel distracted. So distracted driving, I would say, is taking the crown for being one of our key factors contributing to car crashes now. Not because DUI's gotten less, but because distracted driving has gotten more. So that's where we're at.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, some of these more modern vehicles are, I guess, a little better at kind of keeping you in the lanes and alerting you when you're coming up on a vehicle. Some of the sensor technology that's built into them, and that continues to improve. Honestly, that can't happen fast enough, in my opinion, to kind of take some of the human element and the human deficiencies out of that. But that's another subject for another day. What about travel through Mississippi from other states? Is that kind of on the uptick that you've seen over the last week, or expect to?
Well, I mean, there's always an uptick during the holidays. A lot more people buzzing on the roadways, whether they're visitors traveling through, which we see our share of those too, and the citations reflect that. But there's so many people out there usually during the holidays, whether stores, shopping, going and doing a lot of things. A lot of people off of work. A lot of people like to go out and travel and have little vacations. You got, got football season rounding up here. So we're going to see a lot more travelers, I would say, for sure. But whether that's people traveling through Mississippi or not, that's, relative to the traffic we have. It's nothing extra.
Gotcha. Captain, appreciate you joining us this morning, and very grateful, sir, to you and all the state troopers for keeping us safe and keeping our roadways safe and operating and functioning properly. You have a fantastic New Year, sir, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having on. Y'all have a happy New Year, too, and we'll be out here doing our best to make sure everyone has a happy New Year as well. So thank you for letting me come in and join you today.
Absolutely. Middays, we'll step aside. We'll come right back and tell you what the Vice President says is her number one failure. That's all coming up. Stay with us.